not consider him one?
Right.
Because my definition of a leader is someone who does not compromise the fundamentals. And my concern with most leadership, or so-called leadership, in both sides of the House and on both sides of the aisle, is the fact that compromise is their watchword. And there are fundamental issues that we conservatives believe in that are being compromised on a daily basis. For instance, a man that you keep referring to as a good man, and I'm not going to question his morality or his likability, George Bush. He compromised throughout his career. He compromised throughout his term of office on several fundamental conservative issues. And I consider that not to be a true conservative. And I'm sure, and I know Rush did not defend those positions, and he didn't come along through the whole cycle and say, you know, this is a great person and he's made all the right decisions. But the bottom line is we have to be tougher on somebody who calls himself a conservative and acts like a moderate or acts like a liberal.
All right, well, Mike, let me refer to Henry Hyde yesterday. He's the head of our policy committee in the House. I predicted that if we ever take the House, he'll end up the Speaker. But you heard Hyde, and he brought it up. Not I disagree with me and thee on term limits. So sometimes you can have a leader, and they have a different fix on something. He sees the role of the loyal minority is so important that when someone has skills, and he paid me a compliment, he said that I was the example of why we shouldn't have term limits. My comeback is that I'll find someplace else to serve my country, and that I want new blood in the House, not necessarily youth, although that's important too, new ideas, new fighters, that your fighting edge gets worn down by an institution.
Well, you said it earlier, absolute power does corrupt, absolutely, and I don't think anybody's immune to that. Nobody.
Well, let me tell you,
the Founding Fathers understood that, and my concern is that we have career politicians instead of citizen leadership, and
right.
We need the reverse, and it's got to happen because the bigger a government gets, by its very nature, it becomes socialistic.
Mike, I had some young college Republicans in town tell the press last week that I was their hero, but they never thought I could ever get elected to higher office in the House because I was too outspoken and too frank. So maybe these people get into office and they think the only way to advance their career, to get to a higher level of leadership, is to play the game a little bit, to compromise. I know that George Bush, in defending himself, would say, well, you've got to do something to govern. The majority is in the House and the Senate. I've got to deal with them. And that was the genesis of the big tax mistake of 90.
I understand the logic, and I understand the reasoning, but it's faulty.
Okay, thank you.
Let George Bush.
Well, I think I agree with the thrust of your argument there. Let's go to Matt. Thanks, Michael. Let's go to Matthew in Waterbury, Connecticut.
Congressman Dornan.
Yes, Matt.
Well, it's an honor and a pleasure to speak with you. First off, I'd like to dispel the notion that all young people are Clintonites. I'm a 14-year-old, very conservative Republican who'd someday like to have my own show like Rush Limbaugh.
Well, good for you.
And if I ever run for office, you are the person I'd most like to model myself after, because you never give in to any of the criticism and you never try to, change what you're saying.
Well, thank you for following my career up there in Waterbury, Connecticut.
Well, it's a privilege to do that. And
what's on your mind, Matt?
Excuse me?
What's on your mind?
Well, my question for you, Mr. Dornan, is this. Congressman A in the House Post Office scandal
right.
was...
Let me explain that for just 1 second. The early press stories yesterday were not naming congressmen. They were talking about A and B. I don't know if it goes to C or D, but go ahead.
Okay, well, I was watching CNN yesterday, and they said that they matched up some of the records, and Congressman A is most likely Dan Rostenkowski. Now, being an influential member of the Ways and Means Committee...
The chairman?
The chairman. If he gets in trouble, will that affect Clinton's economic budget plan adversely?
Well, it can go either way. Being a cardinal in the House, a religious term for an old bull or one of the leaders who's been there seemingly forever. He was there when I got here. He has a mind of his own, so he might resist certain Clinton ideas. The Democratic caucus, what we call conference on our side, meaning their membership, we only have 176. They have all the rest out of 435 plus the one socialist from a state right above you there, Vermont, and they are more liberal, hardcore left-leaning liberal in their ideology, and their caucus may come up with somebody far to the left of Rostenkowski. They may do what happened on the Armed Services Committee a few years ago. They jumped Aspen over eight other senior people to make him the chairman, and then when he came out for limited production of the big Minuteman missile, they almost stripped him of it, and they made him knuckle under. It's not too harsh a word to say they broke him, and then he went back to being on the left side. So they could put somebody way over the seniority system, which we never, ever do for good or bad in the Republican Party. There's too few of us to play those games for ranking minority member, but they may put somebody over him that is a toady, an absolute lackey for Bill Clinton. And then what Larry Kudlow just said, we're further on the way to financial ruin. I love discussing these things with somebody 14 years old. You're impressive, Matt.
Thank you.
Hang in there, Matt.
To talk with you.
Yeah, when I'm in my rocking chair with a mint julep, I expect to be listening to you on the show. Okay, but not in competition with Rush. We'll be right back after these words.
You're listening to the EIB Network. Ditto, the signature of the Rush Limbaugh Show. Ditto Head, the identifier of those who passionately listen. Ditto Head merchandise, the stuff that the Ditto Heads wear or use to be identified. That's right, coffee cups, t-shirts, sweatshirts, and the newest edition, the gold-plated wristwatch. Be it a self-serving gift or a jab at a liberal buddy, this line of merchandise is ideal. Order now and be the focal point of any conversation. 800-6-RUSH-91. 800-6-RUSH-91. Visa and MasterCard accepted. Order now. 800-6-RUSH-91.
Now, honestly, with business becoming more global each day, wouldn't it help you to know another language? Well, if you spend some time with a National Dynamics language program, we'll have you speaking and understanding Spanish, French, Italian, German, or Japanese in 30 days. No books, no classes. Just our audio tapes in your home, car, or portable cassette player. Call this number today, 1-800-545-1985. That's 1-800-545-1985. Who knows? Another language could translate into you becoming the boss.
Courtyard by Marriott asks business travelers how long their work week is. 40 hours? Try 80 or more. So the last thing they want is to work weekends, and that's something you can take advantage of. Courtyard has weekend rates of $44 to $54 Thursday through Sunday at participating locations through October 3rd. Rooms are limited and restrictions apply. So take advantage of the fact that business travelers hate to work weekends. Call your travel agent or 800-321-2211. Reserve 3 days in advance. Courtyard, the hotel designed by business travelers.
All across America, people are discovering a better place to buy tires. All the top name brands at one store. Only at Sears. And when it comes to price, we won't be undersold. Now through July 28th, get Goodyear's new weather handlers only at Sears. As low as $24.99 for the P15580 SR12. That's right. Goodyear weather handlers as low as $24.99. See store for details. Sears Tire and Auto Center. Driven to satisfy.
Madison's has moved to their new location. That Madison's buffet that others try to duplicate. Those magnificent steaks, prime rib and lobster tails that you've grown to love have moved to the former River House location. Enjoy the lunch and dinner buffet Monday through Friday, the Saturday dinner buffet, and the Sunday lunch buffet in a larger, more elegant setting. There's plenty of parking and elbow room, too, so join Buddy and Kathy Myers for lunch and dinner at the new Madison's on New Hope Road in Goldsboro.
Make your cleaning easier with a new Dirt Devil vacuum by Royal from Waynesboro Furniture. Dirt Devil vacuum cleaners are great for cleaning stairs, upholstery, automobiles, carpets, and much more. The popular Dirt Devil vacuums are easy to handle and very powerful, with great pickup. Plus, you get a complete set of attachments that ride piggyback on the Dirt Devil vacuum. For the Dirt Devil uprights and other terrific deals and vacuums by Royal, come by Waynesboro Furniture, 119 North Center Street, downtown Goldsboro.
1150 WKBR. sworn statement by a service member that he or she is a homosexual will create a rebuttable presumption that he or she intends to engage in prohibited conduct. But the service member will be given an opportunity to refute that presumption.
Bob Dornan, sitting in for Rush. I had 4 years of high school Latin. Not bragging, wasn't my choice. It was the standard curriculum at a Jesuit prep school. And every now and then I come across a little Latin expression that makes that payoff. Those of you that from some prep schools back east or with a JEBI education, see if you can figure out this one. Sui, S-U-I. QK, C-U-I-Q-U-E. Fingunt, fortunum. F-I-N-G-U-N-T, fortunum. Character, fashions, fate. I think that ought to be the motto of the Bill Clinton presidency. Character, fashions, fate. He creates most of his own problems. On this hot news day, we also haven't discussed the FBI appointee. It appears that he has finally hit a home run, if not at least a three-bagger. At first blush, I kind of like the looks of this new young 43-year-old FBI guy with 4 young stalwart sons sitting in the front row, Justin and Connor, and good-looking family. The guy's got a great background. He is an FBI agent, so he knows it inside. This looks like it may be okay. Also starting on the Senate side today are the hearings on Judge Ginsburg to move up and historically to have 2 women out of the 9 members of the U.S. Supreme Court. One thing that occurs to me about what Larry Kudlow was talking about with hitting the rich folks, what I called yesterday the politics intensified by envy, pie, throwing pies in people's faces, stoking envy and jealousy. We get something every Thursday or Friday when the House breaks from our Republican Conference Chairman Dick Armey called the boarding pass, meaning we take it on the airplane with us for a little hot reading to go home and face the taxpayers, the constituents, the town hall meetings. And they said Econ 101 in the Clinton years, soaking the rich and raising revenue. But there's a course prerequisite called Reality 101. Rich people hire accountants. Okay, let's go right back to the phones. Wait a minute, before I do, I'm putting out an article. We have a chance here to touch on Clinton's big press conference yesterday, the big one today being the FBI appointee. And I've done an article on this, and I just, Rush doesn't like to read, neither do I, but read on the show. But just let me, I'll read it with passion. What the beginning of my article says, it simply goes like this, that it's a wrong decision. Why? The only sponsor of the legislation in either chamber to codify the ban as it existed in January is yours truly. I intend to lead the charge to overturn this misguided and immoral policy. No one should believe that the Joint Chiefs support the policy, even though they all signed on. Like good soldiers, they are just following orders. In this case, they were used as props, folks, just like the flags and the historic surroundings at Fort McNair, where, as I pointed out yesterday, with swift and sure justice, following the assassination of Lincoln in April, on July 7th, 1865, they hung 5 or 6 of the conspirators, including the boarding house owner, Madame Surratt. Now, make no mistake, all those props notwithstanding, in the president's mind, he has lifted the ban. In response to a reporter's question later on Monday, Clinton insisted he'd kept his campaign pledge, claiming that under his policy, open homosexuals, that's his words, could serve in the U.S. military. And he's right in his mind. Under the Clinton policy, any service member can proclaim their homosexuality if they feel they can rebut the presumption that they are engaged in homosexual acts or have a propensity or intend to do so. In other words, anybody can stay if they take a sort of oath of celibacy and promise to obey the Universal Code of Military Justice. Now, this completely repudiates the singular truth buried in the same document by Aspen that homosexuality is incompatible with military service, quote unquote. Moreover, the Clinton policy will make it extremely difficult for commanders to initiate investigations, thereby impeding their ability to maintain discipline and discharge those who violate regulations. Commanders have been told sternly to consider in allocating scarce investigative resources that sexual orientation is a personal and private matter. You know what the simple message is there? Don't investigate. Even in instances where a commander has ample evidence that a service member is a practicing homosexual, he will be able to do nothing. According to the Clinton policy, quote, activities such as association with known homosexuals. By the way, I tried to explain this and read it from Aspen's document to Juan Williams on Crossfire last night, and he was yelling in my face he'd have none of it. He wouldn't even read the documents. He was utterly unprepared to debate that show on Crossfire last night. And back to their quote, Aspen, Clinton's quote, activities such as association with known homosexuals, obviously not others in uniform, I guess, presence at homosexual bars, possessing or reading homosexual publications, or marching in a gay, i.e. homosexual rights rally in civilian clothes will not in and of themselves constitute credible information, quote, to launch an investigation. Does the military have to wait for somebody to molest a child, which almost half of the 102 court-martial Army cases last year involved? This is not just a homophobic scare tactic. Almost half of the homosexuals allowed an honorable discharge as a result of plea bargaining were in this category. All of the allowed activities just described will certainly create morale problems for any unit. Suppose the member of a tank crew likes to bring along homosexual literature. How will the other members of the crew react? Now to the president and the other pro-homosexual policymakers, the problem in that tank is not with those who object to having a homosexual in the midst. That is the problem, those who object, and it goes on and on from there. So maybe in the next couple hours we'll take a couple of calls. Let's take one from Steve right now, Hamilton, New Jersey.
Hello?
Yes, Steve.
Hi, Congressman Dornan. I too am concerned about the economy as you are. I mean, to me, it's like the new 3 R's, regressive, recessive, and repulsive. But I wish other things about the administration policies were making the lead stories and the front pages. I'm very concerned about